When I think back to my teenage years, there's one chapter that still feels like it was pulled straight out of a movie, the time I realized what it truly meant to live with someone different, someone who challenged how I saw the world. That person was my stepmom, Evelyn. Now, before you jump to any assumptions, let me make one thing clear: Evelyn wasn't your typical stepmom. She didn't bake cookies in floral aprons, she didn't gossip with neighbors, and she definitely didn't blend into the background. Evelyn was Gothic, jet black hair, sharp eyeliner, and always dressed in elegant black clothes. To most people, that description might sound intimidating. But to me, over time, it became comforting, a part of home. I still remember the first day she moved in. It was a cloudy afternoon, and the sky looked like it was about to pour. My dad had just remarried, and I was standing on the porch, watching a car pull up. Out stepped Evelyn, tall, graceful, with pale skin that made her look like she had stepped right out of an old painting. She carried herself with quiet confidence, the kind that made the world slow down around her. She smiled gently at me and said, "You must be Jamie. I've heard a lot about you." I mumbled a polite, "Hi," still unsure what to think. My dad looked happier than he had been in years, so I told myself to give her a chance. But the first few days were awkward. She decorated parts of the house with dark curtains and antique candles, and she replaced some of Dad's old furniture with vintage-looking pieces. The whole house started smelling faintly of sandalwood and lavender. It wasn't bad, just different. And different can be scary when you're 13. At school, my friends made jokes when they heard I had a Gothic stepmom. They imagined someone who lived in shadows or practiced witchcraft. I laughed along, but deep down, I felt protective of her. She wasn't like that at all. One evening, when Dad was away on a business trip, Evelyn knocked on my door softly. "Hey Jamie, do you want to help me make dinner?" I hesitated. Cooking wasn't my thing. But she smiled in that calm, patient way, and I gave in. In the kitchen, she handed me a chopping board and a knife. "We're making lentil soup," she said. "It's my grandmother's recipe." As I chopped vegetables, she hummed softly, not pop songs or radio hits, but hauntingly beautiful melodies I'd never heard before. It was oddly soothing. The rhythm of her voice made the whole room feel calm. After dinner, we sat together at the table. "So," she asked, "how's school?" I shrugged. "It's fine." She smiled knowingly. Fine usually means not fine. That broke the ice. For the first time, I talked about the pressure of fitting in, how my friends didn't really get me, and how I sometimes felt like I didn't belong. Evelyn listened, really listened, without interrupting or judging. That was the first night I realized there was more to her than her dark clothes and quiet demeanor. Over the weeks, we started talking more. She had this incredible library of old books, stories about history, art, and philosophy. I started borrowing them one by one, fascinated by how differently she saw the world. She'd often say things like, "Light means nothing without darkness," or, "People fear what they don't understand." At first, those phrases sounded deep and mysterious. But over time, they started making sense. Evelyn wasn't trying to be dark, she was teaching me balance. One afternoon, I found her in the garden, wearing a long black dress and planting roses. "You like gardening?" I asked, surprised. She smiled and nodded. "It's peaceful. Even the darkest soil can grow something beautiful." That line stuck with me for years. But not everything was easy. Some people in town weren't kind. Once, at the grocery store, I overheard two women whispering about her, calling her strange and too much. Evelyn pretended not to notice, but I could tell it stung. That night, I asked her, "Doesn't it bother you when people talk like that?" She looked up from her book, her dark eyes calm. "Of course it does," she said softly. "But their words don't define who I am. I can't control how people see me. I can only control how I treat them." That was one of many quiet lessons she taught me, not with lectures, but through how she lived. One of the most magical nights came in December. Snow had covered the yard in white, and the world outside looked frozen in time. Evelyn came to my room and said, "Come with me." I followed her outside, wrapped in a thick blanket. She carried a telescope. "I used to stargaze with my dad," she said, setting it up. "Want to learn?" For the next hour, she showed me constellations, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper, and told me stories about each one. Her voice was steady and full of wonder. I remember looking up at the stars and realizing how small, yet connected, everything felt. That night, she told me something I'll never forget. Jamie, people will always try to fit you into a box. But you're allowed to be different. You're allowed to shine in your own strange, beautiful way. By spring, Evelyn and I had built a quiet, strong bond. She never replaced my mom, she didn't try to. But she became someone who made life deeper, fuller. She taught me how to make herbal tea, how to meditate when I was stressed, and even how to paint little scenes of the moon. Sometimes, when I had bad days, she'd write me small notes: breathe, you're doing great, or, darkness isn't scary when you carry light inside you. It was her way of saying she cared. Years passed. I grew older, went to college, and eventually moved to another city. But every time I came home, the scent of lavender and candle wax reminded me of her presence. One summer, when I was 21, I visited home after a long time. Evelyn had redecorated the living room, still Gothic, but cozy. Black velvet curtains, silver picture frames, and plants everywhere. She smiled as soon as she saw me. Jamie, you've grown taller. We spent hours catching up. She showed me her new art projects she had started painting. Her work was stunning. Dark forests, glowing moons, and soft faces in candlelight. There was a quiet emotion in her art, melancholy mixed with peace. Later that night, as we sat on the porch, she said something that stayed with me forever. You know, people often think being Gothic means loving darkness. But really, it's about appreciating contrast. Life is full of shadows, they make the light shine brighter. That was Evelyn, always turning what others feared into something meaningful. Over the years, I've realized how much she shaped me. Her patience taught me empathy. Her confidence taught me to stop caring about opinions. Her quiet strength showed me that gentleness can be more powerful than noise. When I tell people now about my stepmom, I don't call her Gothic, I call her graceful. She showed me that being different isn't about standing out, it's about standing true. Evelyn still wears black, still paints, still keeps her collection of old books and candles. But to me, she's not mysterious anymore. She's warmth disguised in elegance, the person who helped me see beauty in what others overlook. So, what's it like to have a Gothic stepmom? It's like living with art. It's like finding peace in silence. It's learning that love doesn't need to look ordinary to be real. Sometimes, we think family has to fit a certain picture: cheerful, bright, predictable. But Evelyn showed me that families built on understanding and respect are stronger than any stereotype. Now, as an adult, whenever I light a candle or hear the soft notes of a piano, I think of her. Her lessons echo in everything I do. When I'm struggling, I remember her voice, calm, grounded, steady. Even the darkest soil can grow something beautiful. And I smile, because I know she was right.